You're listening to episode 3 of the Comic Bookster podcast, your source for all things comics, past, present, and future.
Dragged from what could be any comic shop in the United States to host this incredibly nerdy podcast are some of the most enthusiastic comic book readers ever assembled. They are the Comic Booksters, dedicated to discussing news, speculation, and recommendations for all comic buyers.
Hi, welcome back to episode 3 of the Comic Bookster podcast, your source for comics past, present, and future. Once again, my name's Nerdcore, and I'm joined by my perennial kid sidekick, Obi the Boy.
Welcome back to Comic Booksters. This is going to be an interesting week.
Yeah, we're going to do something a little different this week. The past 2 weeks, we had talked about DC Rebirth, and we talked about Civil War 2. However, last night, we're recording this on Friday, we had seen Captain America Civil War, and we would like to take this episode to talk about that and give a little bit of a review. We're going to start off with some non-spoilery stuff for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, so feel free to keep listening. We'll end the episode in spoiler territory, though, and we'll give you a fair warning before we start launching into various plot points and whatnot in this movie. So we're hoping you have a good time. And Obi, we'll start with you. Captain America Civil War, is it worth seeing?
Actually, for once, I will say yes, it's worth seeing.
You say for once. Why is that? Let's talk about where you're coming from when you say that.
Captain America Winter Soldier, I just cannot watch.
Okay. Why is that? What didn't you like about Captain America Winter Soldier? To put some perspective on what changed your opinion for Captain America Civil War.
It felt more like a Mission Impossible movie than a Captain America story.
Any particular reason why it felt more Mission Impossible? Is it just because of how involved S.H.I.E.L.D. was? Because Cap's been a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent since the late 60s.
Yeah, no, the S.H.I.E.L.D. thing's not... Yeah, I get that. No, it's just... It really felt like a Mission Impossible movie, and I really hate Mission Impossible.
Okay, well, that's one reason. So what did this movie do that... Because I know, talking to you before we went in, you did not have high hopes for this at all. But then again, you don't buy into the hype machine generally. But what changed your mind, like production-wise? You know, like I said, we're not doing spoilers just yet, but production-wise, what brought this to the table and elevated it, in your opinion?
It was done really well.
Okay.
The biggest thing for me is it's the first Marvel movie, I would say, in a while that's had a story that actually sort of matters. Because I don't think any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has really had a driving story.
Not even the Avengers, the first movie?
No, the first Avengers has no plot. Come on now. It's like a Michael Bay movie.
I guess for me, I enjoyed the movie. I'm not going to say I didn't. I personally like Winter Soldier more. I feel like it's a more Captain America focused story. Having been a Captain America fan since I was a real little kid, and having read back issues from way back in the Silver Age and whatnot, all the way up through, I thought it was a good mesh of different Captain America story elements. But I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy Civil War. I really did. I do agree with you. I feel like it is finally a story that is worthy of all the characters we've been introduced to so far. Everyone really got their due in the movie. It's beautifully shot. The pacing is great. It's pretty much the antithesis of Batman vs. Superman, which was just a collection of scenes and a mishmash of a story. The plot was there, and it held my interest the entire time.
Yeah, this was very well paced. That was one of my big things, is how well is this going to be paced. Like, Avengers 2, there's parts where it's really boring. Avengers 1 is really boring until that big fight at the end. I just can't get into it at all.
But for me, the thing with the first Avengers movie was that big fight was a payoff to a slow burn. I felt like there was always something simmering under the surface, just waiting to explode. Whether it was the team itself or them taking down Loki, there was always something under the surface. It just helped build that anticipation so that big final fight at the end was made worth it. This movie, you kind of really just jump into the action, and I could say that it's kind of anticlimactic towards the end because there's a big centerpiece of action right in the middle of it that I almost feel should have been at the end of the movie.
I think they do a good job in this of giving all the characters pretty much equal screen time. It doesn't seem like they focus on one character more than another, which, I mean, it is a Captain America movie, which is kind of surprising. You would think they'd focus on him. I guess this is a question more, because I feel like it actually focuses around Black Widow and Wanda more than it focuses on Captain and Iron Man.
I don't know. I feel like
Is that a spoiler?
I don't think that's a spoiler per se. We can talk. I mean, if we got more specific into it, I'm sure it would be considered a spoiler. I feel like Captain America though is largely our focus character. I feel like we follow him a bit more than we follow Team Iron Man and even certain members of his team. Obviously, he's involved in most of the things. We see what he's doing more than everyone else. When they bring in Ant-Man, it's very abrupt. You never see him get brought in.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was going to be a spoiler or not. But yeah, that whole Ant-Man thing was just the worst.
Really?
No, I love Ant-Man, and I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. The whole way they brought him in, and he was there, and then they were just, it was basically like, here's a sample of him. Now we're going to rip him out of the movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, that can be said for a bunch of characters on either team. You could say the same for Spider-Man as well. But
Spider-Man, I think, got more screen time.
Maybe. But we'll talk about that. Anything else non-spoilery we've got going on here?
Obviously, it goes around the Registration Act. I mean, it's basically Civil War.
Yeah, well, it's appropriate because the movie's named Civil War.
Spider-Man was good. That's not spoilery.
Spider-Man was good. I thought Ant-Man was good for when he was in it. I really thought that Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye actually nailed more the feel of the character in this movie than he was given an opportunity to in any of the other 3 movies he's been in so far. He had that Hawkeye snark that, I mean, you got a little bit of it in Age of Ultron, but it was on full display here.
No, I mean, not that I had a problem with Ant-Man. I didn't say that. I liked him when he was on screen. I just feel like they didn't give him enough time on screen.
Yeah, but you are getting another Ant-Man movie here in the rather near future. In the next couple of years, you're getting Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Because, I mean, out of looking over the list again of the characters, I think he got the least amount of screen time.
Black Panther, on the other hand, got a very decent amount of screen time.
Which was great, because he was great.
Yeah, he even more so than Spider-Man, I want to say that Black Panther is definitely the standout in this movie.
I don't know. For me, it's Wanda.
Yeah, she also got a healthy chunk of screen time.
She stole the whole movie for me. To me, this movie should be called Wanda and Black Widow.
Not Scarlet Witch?
Not Scarlet Witch, because they haven't really called her that really in the movies yet.
Yeah, I would say that this movie definitely has me wanting a Vision and the Scarlet Witch movie.
This has me wanting a Black Widow movie.
Which, the day that we are recording this, Kevin Feige has now said that a solo Black Widow movie is a priority for Marvel Studios. I'm not sure how much Civil War has to do with this, as much as the constant fan pestering that has been going on for the past couple years has, with them finally maybe relenting and giving Natasha Romanoff her own movie. But I think it is past time. She is definitely a focal point of this movie, and Scarlett Johansson delivers a rather standout performance here.
Yeah. When we get to spoilers, I will literally go over a list of reasons why she almost takes over this whole movie.
Well, I mean, do we have anything else non-spoilery that we want to do, or do we just want to leap right into the fray?
I would tell you it's definitely go worth see it. It's not Batman vs Superman. It's actually a good movie. It lives up to the hype, and that's rough for me to say because I never jump on a hype train, and I've thought about going to see this movie again when I get a chance.
And I'm right there with you about that. It was good enough to see again. I saw Batman vs Superman twice. I feel like I have to see this twice just to keep the balance at least.
I think you need to see it 3 times just to make up for the fact that you saw Batman vs Superman twice.
Well, I mean, it helped put some stuff in perspective for me when I saw Batman vs Superman twice. I feel like I'm going to go watch Civil War again, and I'll still appreciate it just the same. It'll just be neat to see if I can pick out anything I missed before. Okay, so we ready to open Pandora's box here? And
Yeah.
all
Here's
right.
our full warning about spoilers, by
Yes,
the way.
yes, yeah. So if you haven't seen the movie now, you're gonna want to turn this off for now and come back to it later. For here there be spoilers. All right, let's get right down to it. Gonna give you a couple seconds to leave. Gonna give you 5 seconds starting now. Okay, that's 5 seconds that you had to leave this podcast. If anything gets spoiled for you now about Captain America Civil War, it's on you. I wash my hands of responsibility here, and so does Obi. Okay, so no one died.
Yeah, no one died. That was amazing. That was great.
That was.
I thought for sure one of them was falling out of that window.
Oh, I know.
Especially when when Iron Man was like falling back after the whole fight and he just slumps down. I'm like, oh, dude, you're falling out that window.
Well, I went into this movie and being as versed in Captain America and Civil War as I am, in the comics, Captain America dies, and here he doesn't, which, quite frankly, I feel is the right choice because we've got Avengers Infinity War Parts 1 and 2, which are not going to be called that now, apparently, coming up here in the very near future. And honestly, I feel like the Marvel Universe is going to need a leader of Captain America's stature to come back. So keeping Captain America alive adds a nice little interesting dynamic because he's needed here in the future films, but also now you have him on the run as a fugitive with the rest of what I'm assuming are the Secret Avengers, which were Team Cap in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of got... If you were reading up on any of this stuff going into this, you kind of knew that Captain wasn't going to die.
I was trying to avoid spoilers like the
Well,
plague.
no, it wasn't spoilers. It was more of what Evan said himself. Because this was his last movie under contract.
Well, and he wants to keep with it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
He sounded...
came out and said that he wanted to keep with it. Which meant you kind of knew that he was not dying in this movie.
That's true. That's true.
So it was kind of like a non-spoilerly spoiler that came out a week and a half ago.
Yeah. But, because I know there for a little while he was hesitant. It sounded like he wanted to retire and focus on directing. But he seems to be wanting to stick with Captain America. And that's great because he is perfect in that role as far as I'm concerned.
It has everything to do with Chris Pratt, too.
Yeah?
I'm just going to throw that out there. That all the little bets they do to go to the children's hospital, it's all about Chris Pratt made him realize what he did by wearing that costume. Because Evans just thought it was like the same thing as Johnny Storm the first time, until he realized that people actually do care about that character way more than he ever realized.
Him and Chris Pratt going around to children's hospitals as Captain America and Star-Lord, I'm sure, has opened his eyes to just exactly how big of an impact he's made as the character. But he really does embody Steve Rogers very well. I never once look at him on screen and think, that's Chris Evans. I did with the Human Torch, but with him as Captain America, I mean, he's Captain America. I feel like he's just as well cast in that role as Downey Jr. is as Iron Man.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I mean, they both fit their roles very well.
Yeah. So, looking at this movie, starts off with the Avengers trying to stop a Crossbones from getting a biological weapon, and Crossbones attempts to kill Captain America with a bomb. Scarlet Witch contains it, kind of, sort of, lifts him up in the air, loses control, and Crossbones kills himself and a bunch of Wakandans on his aid mission.
Before we even get to that, here's a part where, again, this is why this is a Black Widow movie. If that first part during the fight scenes, like Falcon takes out, I think 3, if I remember the count right, is 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Captain America does 3, and Black Widow does a whole squad by herself.
I mean, she's Black Widow. How can she not?
A whole squad by herself? Like, come on.
No, I will give Black Widow her due. She is certifiably badass in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, Scarlet Witch or Wanda, I wish they would call her Scarlet Witch. It would be great. You see both of them as badasses, and I stick by my statement earlier that it should be called Wanda and Black Widow.
I wouldn't go that far, but I do think, one of the things I really did like about Wanda's portrayal in it, and it goes into that scene I was talking about, which sets up the entire Sokovia Accords, is the fact that she's obviously still learning how to control everything. If she lapses in concentration, bad things do happen, as evidenced by Crossbones managing to take out an entire building full of Wakandans when he goes, because she obviously loses concentration during that. But what comes out of that is we get reintroduced to Thunderbolt Ross. He's Secretary of State now, and he brings up the first Avengers movie with Manhattan, Sokovia in Age of Ultron, Washington, D.C. in The Winter Soldier, and this latest incident. And the Avengers are supposed to sign these accords to be put under United Nations supervision. They'll be sent where they feel like they should be sent by the United Nations and kept home when they're not supposed to, which is what Captain America takes issue with, is he doesn't like thinking that there might be a situation that they need to go to that they can't get to.
Yeah. Going back to the Wakanda, that whole scene kind of bothered me a little bit because it's kind of out of character for them, and the general backstory of them, trying to stay away from the rest of the human population. It was kind of weird to bring that into this movie, I thought, especially the king being at the UN, because he always...
Well, they weren't at the UN, they were in Vienna.
Whatever. He never wanted to leave Wakanda, and always told Prince T'Challa to never leave Wakanda. They were so...
Isolationist?
Yeah, they was so passionate about it. That kind of made me, for a little bit, just a little bit, it pulled me out of the story. And that's only one of, two gripes I have with the movie, and that's minuscule at least. Most.
When you're looking at storytelling conventions in film and you're drawing on source material, it's Civil War, which was 10 years ago, but you're drawing from over 50 to 75 years worth of comic book continuity. I mean, certain sacrifices, I understand, need to be made to get characters from point A to point B. So bringing T'Chaka and T'Challa to Vienna for the signing of this treaty, for the signing of the Sokovia Accords, I should say, makes sense. Well, one, they had said that they were isolationist and they were trying to do an outreach. After vibranium was used to build Ultron's weapon in Age of Ultron. But it makes sense that they're there because that gives away that T'Chaka is killed and gives T'Challa a reason to become the Black Panther and hunt down the Winter Soldier, because Winter Soldier is, again, spoilers, framed for the explosion that takes the life of T'Chaka.
Yeah, no, I'm not... they explain it well, which is why I was able to come right back into it. Like I said, it was just for a minute. I was like, this is out of character. And then it was back into the movie.
I will say one thing that I don't like, and I'm hoping that after this film we're done with it, because it was a big theme in Batman vs. Superman, and it was a big theme in this film right here. I don't know about you. I go to comic book movies because, well, I love comics, but also the same reason that I love comics is it gives me an escape. And for whatever reason, it's become this big thing is, well, now we have to address all the collateral damage that has ever been done by superheroes in these movies and in these comics, and it's just I don't want to have that topic covered ever again. It was a big thing with Batman versus Superman. It's the entire reason Batman was trying to kill Superman, but it's the driving force behind this movie too. It seems like there can be no escapism in today's world. It always has to be, there has to be consequences to everything. Sometimes I just want to go to a movie and have fun,
No, I mean, yeah, you want that escapism when you go to a movie, but you knew what you're getting going into this. The whole story of Civil War was that. Yeah,
I mean, with was it Stamford, Connecticut? They got blown up in the actual comic.
I believe so.
Yeah, so you knew what was going in. But now that they've made this movie, I don't want to see this topic revisited. I mean, obviously, Cap's on the run at the end of the movie with the Secret Avengers, but I don't really need to have this pushed down my throat any further. I can have the conflict keep going without it being constantly brought up.
I think the only time you're going to see it come up is if they do ever do a single Hulk movie. I think that you might see that, because that's always a driving story for Hulk, is look at all this stuff you did wrong. Here, and here.
So they get to the Accords. Captain America refuses to sign. Peggy Carter dies, and Cap finds out that Agent 13 is her niece at her funeral. Meanwhile, the Avengers are in Vienna for the signing of the Accords. There's an explosion. T'Chaka gets killed. There's a video release that shows that Bucky had a car bomb in front of the building, and that's what caused T'Chaka's death, along with numerous other delegates. T'Challa vows vengeance and becomes the Black Panther. Cap goes on the lam to track down Bucky and finds him and is followed by Black Panther. Cap is backed out by Falcon, and there's this big fight, and everyone gets arrested.
Before we get there, can I say one thing about the Peggy Carter funeral?
Sure.
That crushed me twice.
Crushed you twice?
Crushed
Why is
me
that?
twice. Because they pretty much said that it's not going to get a third season, which crushes my feelings and hopes, and then she dies. I mean, I know she dies because she's old, but it's still... I love that character.
Yeah, and you know, but you knew it was coming. She was like 100 years old, man.
I know, but I didn't need to see it on film. It would have been. It was.
Well, you didn't see her die.
It would have been an easier peace of mind if there wasn't that funeral. I know it was a moving piece for Captain.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, but I didn't. For me, I didn't need to see it.
Okay, that's fine. I get that. So after everyone's arrested, we meet Everett K. Ross, who's played by Martin Freeman. He doesn't really have a lot to do here. I'm assuming once we hit Black Panther as an actual solo film, you'll get a bit more of his character. And he has Sharon Carter on his task force that is hunting down Winter Soldier, which kind of puts all the pieces in place for what's going to happen. Baron Zemo, he's not Baron in this, Helmut Zemo. He's a Sokovian freedom fighter, goes in, and he has been tracking down information on the Winter Soldier, particularly code phrases that activate, particularly the compliance in the Winter Soldier to be able to carry out missions. And
a particular mission.
Yeah, a particular mission in general. So what ends up happening is he activates the Winter Soldier, power gets cut to the building, Steve and Falcon are in pursuit, Zemo gets away, everyone's hunting for Cap, Bucky, and Sam, and they're holding Bucky, I almost want to say hostage or prisoner, but they got him confined to this basement area.
They're holding him the smartest way they know how.
Exactly. They have him confined to this basement area, and they realize that, you know, he's no longer in Winter Soldier mode, and what Zemo's plan is to activate these other Winter Soldiers that exist.
No, what you think is his plan is
it isn't actually his plan, because he just kills them, which props to him.
Yeah. Well, it was easy. They were all sleeping. You just had to shoot them.
Yeah. So Sharon Carter decides to defect and help Cap and Sam and Bucky, gets them all their equipment, and then they kiss in what is my biggest complaint of the movie. Because, don't get me wrong, I know and respect the history between Captain America and Sharon Carter. I don't feel like they've had nearly enough interaction to get us to that point yet.
No, they didn't, but...
And it bothered me even more when...
They were at the funeral a few weeks ago.
No, it wasn't a few weeks ago. It was the day before.
Whatever.
It was like, but it bothered me even more, Obi, because Sharon goes, that was, and Cap says, overdue. And I literally said in the middle of that theater, was it?
I mean, it could be, because she was living across the hallway from him before the setup of...
Yeah, but they barely knew each other. Like, it was just a nice neighbor. Natasha maybe said, hey, there's that hot chick who lives across the hall from you.
She does say that.
but it's not like... I think the first time that he met her was really when he helped her with her laundry. And then Nick Fury died on his couch.
Maybe it was just time for him to have a kiss. Period.
Maybe.
He's old.
I mean, it's only been, 70 years? Well, I kissed Natasha in Winter Soldier. It was a cover kiss, but still.
Yeah, it was a cover. That wasn't this. Yeah.
Anyway, Tony Stark begs Thunderbolt Ross to let him and the rest of the Avengers who signed the Accords bring in Steve and Bucky. And there's a fight. Things don't go that well. As a matter of fact, there's a couple ideas that they need to recruit people, and I forget who. Natasha brings in Black Panther on their side, and Tony brings in Spider-Man. Your thoughts on Spider-Man?
That was amazing. That was the
spectacular, even.
That was
sensational.
Ultimate. I don't care what you want to call it. That was what I've been waiting to see Peter Parker on screen for years.
And here's where we come to my other gripe about this movie. I should never, in my opinion at least, be sitting in a theater watching Spider-Man and see Aunt May and go, ah.
Oh yeah. Aunt May is definitely attractive.
Aunt May is, yeah. Well, she's Marissa Tomei, so, but still, I should never double take on Aunt May the way I did during the movie. But Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Spider-Man is fantastic. He has some of the funniest lines in the entire movie. So him, and on the other side, Cap's joined by Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch and Ant-Man, who, for the brief time he is in the movie, rivals Spider-Man for some of the funniest lines. Though I honestly think that they're rivaled to an extent by Hawkeye and the pairing off between Falcon and Bucky.
I think the funniest line is delivered by Iron Man in the movie, actually.
Oh, go figure. Which one?
The one after Ant-Man becomes Giant Man, and he says, I'm pretty sure this is the direct quote, does anyone on our side have some spectacular or fantastic hidden ability? And I'm like, oh my god!
That was pretty good. I was particularly a big fan of Ant-Man getting inside the Iron Man armor and talking to Tony, to which Tony goes, but who is that? And he goes, it's your conscience. We haven't spoken in a while. So there's a big fight, and everyone on Cap's team gets captured with the exception of Cap and Bucky, who head to Siberia to head off Zemo.
Who, again, Black Widow is the big reason they don't.
Yes, Black Widow actually defects from Iron Man's team and holds off Black Panther so Cap and Bucky can make their getaway in a Quinjet.
But before we leave that fight, there is a good line from Spider-Man where he's like, about that really old movie, when he's referring...
Which he's talking about the Empire Strikes Back.
Which, now that I was thinking about it for 24 hours, and that came to my mind, actually I was just watching Empire Strikes Back, this movie is almost Empire Strikes Back.
Almost.
It is damn close, which is really weird. Not a bad thing, because if you want to make a good movie, you can follow Empire.
Yeah, exactly. It's by far the best of the Star Wars movies, in my opinion. But that being said, so they go to Siberia to stop these, what they think is Zemo reactivating these Winter Soldiers, and they are followed by Iron Man, which we're introduced to the Raft in this movie, by the way, as a metahuman prison, which is where all the secret Avengers, as I will call Team Cap from here on out, get taken or held prisoner. Iron Man blacks out their cameras and gets the location of Cap and Bucky from Falcon because he realizes that Zemo was impersonating the psychiatrist that was sent to evaluate Bucky after the psychiatrist turns up dead. So he goes to Siberia, he's trailed by Black Panther, everyone confronts Zemo, and we find out that Winter Soldier killed Howard and Maria Stark.
Yeah, and Tony Stark did not take that well at all.
Yeah, given how he knew about how Winter Soldiers worked at that point, as far as Bucky being activated by code phrases and kind of being under hypnotic command, I'm not sure how much I enjoyed that because Tony just came off as bullheaded and stupid in my opinion at least, because, Bucky, if anything, Bucky was the victim here. Like, sure, yeah, Tony's parents were killed, obviously, and, there should have been the initial outburst, but I feel like he should have came to see reason somewhere within that fight.
But that's Tony Stark you're talking about. He never sees reason. If you saw reason, Pepper Potts would have been in that movie.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what was missing. But, so they fight. Tony takes off Bucky's arm. Cap finally manages to disable the arc reactor in Tony's armor and takes Bucky away. Leaves his shield as a sign of respect to Howard Stark, who made it and disappears. Tony rejoins the Avengers full time, goes to the compound. Avengers now are Iron Man.
What we really missed from that big fight was the fact that War Machine got taken out.
Yes, backtracking to the airport battle, War Machine got taken out by an errant shot from Vision, who was trying to take down Falcon.
Wasn't really errant though. I mean, Falcon did semi-dodge it.
Yeah, which turned it into an errant shot.
Yeah.
And he falls out of the sky, and he has spinal injuries now. Tony's trying to rehabilitate him to walk using an exoskeleton of some sort at the end of the movie. So the Avengers at the end of the movie now are Iron Man and War Machine. Vision. Who else do we
Widow.
have? Widow, I guess, is still on it, kind of.
That's it.
Yeah. It's not a very big lineup at all that's left with the movie, because I don't even think Spider-Man's technically an Avenger.
He might be. We'll just call him it. So there's 5 if you want to call Spider-Man in there.
I'll have to try and rewatch that movie to figure out if there's anyone that we're missing.
Panther was obviously with Captain now, so Panther is
But is he doing the double agent thing too, maybe?
I mean, he's smart enough to, so maybe.
Yeah. Still in all, they're vowed to bring Cap in. Cap sends Tony a letter apologizing because it comes out that Cap knew from Bucky's file that he had murdered the Starks. And he kept it from Tony because he wanted to spare him pain, realized that he was just sparing himself pain, and sends a letter apologizing and telling Tony that if he never needs him to contact him, he will be there. And then he breaks into the raft and breaks out the Secret Avengers. And we get 2 after credits sequence.
You missed Tony Stank.
Oh, Stan Lee's cameo. Yeah, Stan Lee plays the FedEx guy who delivers a package to Tony Stank.
That's great, though. That was great. That was, come on.
It was good.
Especially when Rhodey is like, 1 table for Mr. Stank.
1 table for Mr. Tony Stank. Yes.
He's like, no, I'm good. I got this now. He totally changed his whole outlook on life.
It did.
Tony Stank.
So, first after credit sequence. What'd you think with the in Wakanda?
Oh yeah, which I wasn't even thinking about that as an after credit sequence. It feels like it was part of the end of the movie more than an after credit sequence. So I mean, obviously, seeing that I feel like it was part of the movie, I thought that was great.
Right. Which we find out that Black Panther has Bucky in Wakanda, is putting him back on ice until they can figure out a way to break his programming.
I really like that Black Panther statue.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Wakanda looks awesome. I can't wait for the solo Black Panther movie at this point.
It's been my most excited movie I've been for. I've told you that for years.
Yeah.
That was a movie I was waiting for the most from the Marvel Cinematic Universe was Black Panther. Which is one of them characters I've always liked.
Our second after credit sequence, I kind of felt was a little bit of a letdown.
No, come on.
I mean,
come on.
I'm used to there being like a revelation, which I guess we got in the first after credit sequence. I mean, it was good, don't get me wrong, but it was just Spider-Man covering up bruises from Aunt May and finding that Tony Stark had installed a spider signal light in his web shooter.
Yeah, he's Batman.
Yeah. So, we're going to do that Dan Slott Amazing Spider-Man versus Batman Incorporated episode eventually. But overall, I would say, letter grade wise, I'll give Civil War an A-.
I'll give it a solid A. That's big for me.
Yes. Because Obi doesn't like anything.
Certain things. Not a lot of movies, that's for sure.
Unless it's Star Wars. Obi generally doesn't like it. So he gives Civil War a solid A. Slightly higher than I give something. So this is monumental. Episode 3, write it down because it'll never happen again.
You don't know, Black Panther probably.
So, couple quick questions here. Best part of the movie?
All the scenes with Wanda in it.
Okay. I think that probably the best part for me is the big action sequence at the airport.
No, I mean, if you want to just go for a scene, when she slams Vision through all of the freaking...
While escaping from the Avengers compound?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. She took Vision out of commission, which no one has ever done.
That was awesome.
Like I said, I'm for the sequence, particularly the bits with Spider-Man and Ant-Man in that action sequence, and also the exchange between Cap and Spider-Man about being from Queens and Brooklyn. I enjoyed that.
Which is back in that end credit too with Spider-Man where he says I got hit by a guy named Steve from Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good catch. Funniest moment.
When they tackled Giant Man like a AT-AT. Come on now.
Personally, I'm
How do you beat that?
I'm a fan of when Falcon and Winter Soldier take each other out, and Falcon just looks at Winter Soldier and goes, "I hate you." The way that those two play off each other. Also, and that being said, the car, when Bucky's like, "Can you move your seat forward?" And Sam just goes, "No."
And then you see him slowly move towards the middle of the bug.
Yep.
You think about 3 extremely physically fit males in this little tiny bug. I couldn't even imagine it.
So I was a big fan of their interplay. So I guess our opinion overall, go out as soon as you can and see Captain America Civil War.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it again. It still doesn't make me not want to go see Apocalypse because I'm so ready for that.
Yeah, we're gonna see. I don't know.
Again, that could be a movie where I'm more positive than you.
Yeah, that could be because I don't know. Like, I enjoy X-Men 2. I enjoy Days of Future Past, but I can only do not being true to the X-Men for so long. Like, I don't know. It's time. We covered this a little bit last week with them.
Yeah, Bryan Singer needs to go.
With them getting their costumes, but we'll be doing another review episode when X-Men Apocalypse hits theaters, so watch for that. But until next time, this has been Nerdcore and Obi, and we'd like to wish you happy reading and happy viewing.
Go watch this movie.
Thanks again for tuning into the Comic Bookster podcast. We would love to hear from you with feedback and suggestions. You can send those to us by email at thecomicbooksters@gmail.com or on Twitter @comicbooksters. And be sure to follow us on Facebook. So long, everybody.